So with Nintendo finally confirming that the Switch successor is going to be coming out soon, and by soon I'm going to just go ahead and say by the end of next year, because we don't know exactly what day or time or what month this is going to happen in. Between them announcing it, and it's been just a couple days when I'm recording this, there have been plenty of other leaks that have come out trying to just, give you specs, give you all sorts of different information about what everyone thinks about the Switch 2. And instead of covering every individual thing that has happened so far, I thought it would be more helpful to make a video that goes over everything we know about the Switch 2 as of right now, going back to the credible leaks that we've had up until this point, and including some of the stuff that we think is credible now, just to put it all in one video. That way, yes, there might be more of these Switch 2 leak videos that I produce in the future, but there's been so many so far, and I understand, some people are tired of hearing about it, they just want to see it. I get it. I'm kind of on the same boat, but this is the only news we've got to talk about. So instead of just spreading everything out, I'm just going to put it all in one video. And I think, and what inspired me to do this is that there is a very credible leaker on X known as Centro Leaks. They're normally a Pokemon Twitter leaker, but Centro Leaks put together a really nice, just detailed breakdown of everything that's all but confirmed for Switch 2. There's other potential leaks on there, and then there's like a very grain of salt rumor kind of thing on here. So this video is going to serve as just getting everyone caught up on what potentially could be the Switch 2. So if you enjoy this video, make sure you leave a like. It helps me out, lets me know what people are engaged with, and subscribe if you're new here. As we get closer into the summer of gaming time, there's going to be a more variety of content than just constantly talking about Switch 2 until Nintendo finally blows the lid off this, of course. But let's break down everything that Central Leaks has put together in this, and I'll have some sources in the description to kind of back up some of these leaks. So the first thing we're going to talk about is performance. And to kind of break down the performance of the Switch 2, you do have to look at it under two different microscopes. One for handheld, one for the console version. And it's really going to be kind of a powerful device whenever it comes out. It's on a power level, it's going to be on the handheld side pretty comparable to a standard PS4. And then as far as the performance whenever it's docked, you're going to be closer to a PS4 Pro to an Xbox Series S, which, yes, there's still a little bit of more mid-level consoles as far as today's standards go, but it's a big jump for Nintendo as far as performance goes. The good thing though is that since Nintendo has partnered with Nvidia for this console, they are going to be able to utilize the DLSS, which is the deep learning super sampling, which is kind of like artificial upscaling of games. So that's one of the things I think Nintendo is going to be relying on a lot, especially if it's actually going to be trying to output 4K on your TV. That using that DLSS actually really helps out a lot. As someone who games a lot on my PC, and I've got an NVIDIA graphics card, nothing's brand new. I've had it for a long time. The DLSS does do a lot to help me not have to upgrade my graphics card every 2 to 3 years, and I can keep playing a lot of more modern games. So Nintendo kind of putting this into their next generation system kind of helps it, not get as outdated as the Switch 1 did. When it first came out, everyone's like, wow, the Switch 1's awesome. We didn't have a lot of issues. But you fast forward 4 or 5 years in, and everyone's starting to notice, well, this thing really can't play a lot of other new games. So I think the DLSS is going to help out a lot with that. All right, and then to kind of break down as far as the different types of leaks, we're going to start with the ones that have been all but confirmed. So other than Nintendo just walking out and saying, yeah, this is legit, this is pretty much all of the legit information about the Switch 2. It will feature an 8-inch LCD screen with only one launch model. So in a previous video, I speculated that maybe there's going to be a second model that's going to be an OLED. Apparently, they're just going to save the OLED model for a couple years in like they did for the regular Switch. Again, we'll be using DLSS version 3.5 to improve performance and support ray tracing. The system will feature 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM, which is, I believe, a little bit more than what the Xbox Series S has in it, but of course with RAM you don't actually get to use all of it, so I think it's like 10.2 gigabytes of that will be reserved for this for to actually be used by the system. It will launch with 256 gigabytes of UFS 3.1 internal storage, which I thought maybe it was only going to launch with 64 gigs, so launching with 256 is a nice jump up from that. But as Nintendo puts more storage on the system, you're also looking into games that are going to take up more storage, so it's pretty much just going to even itself out. The system will use magnets to attach the new Joy-Con in some way to the controller. Something about electromagnetic attachment, talked about that in a previous video. I am speculative of that, and after talking to friends that have kids, they are also very speculative of what that's going to mean whenever their kids are holding their system with one hand and the Joy-Cons are only attached via magnets. And yeah, and how expensive is that going to be to repair if something were to go wrong with it? The system will be completely backward compatible with original Nintendo Switch games, physical and digital, and will connect via Bluetooth to original Joy-Cons and Pro controllers. This is more of a big deal than I think it seems like at first glance. If you are someone who maybe has collected a lot of Joy-Con and Pro controllers, and hopefully not had a bunch of drift issues with the Joy-Con, you're not going to have to go out and buy a bunch of brand new controllers. Like if you think back to the transition from like the Wii U to the Switch, where nothing worked. Wii remotes were gone. Gamepad didn't work. Pro controller didn't work. Like you had to get the new controllers essentially. So I think that's nice that stuff's going to be supported. Again, will feature 4K support while docked and uses the new NVIDIA Tegra T239 chip. I think I'm very tech savvy. I don't know anything about NVIDIA Tegra chips. But at least it's a newer version of the chip they're using. And I know that they don't usually use like the latest and greatest chip, so it is probably a couple years old by the time it comes out, but it's a little bit more updated and again supports DLSS, which is a nice feature that I think the Switch 2 is really going to be able to take advantage of. All right, next section is all about potential leaks. So everything here, it's not all but confirmed. There's still margin for error here. Some of this might end up being incorrect. The system and the controllers are going to feature integrated microphones. This is a new thing that just popped up a couple days ago, which hopefully that means that voice chat is just something that's baked into the system, or they're going to use it kind of like the DS had a microphone built in for specific games. People were talking, I think, about Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story and how that had a microphone support in it. So maybe that's a good sign that that game's going to get shifted over to the new system, which I'm all about. I think that's cool. But hopefully with the amount of RAM and performance we're expecting here, that Nintendo's been working on like an integrated voice chat into the system, so that way you don't have to have a separate app for it, even though I'm perfectly fine just opening Discord to do anything. System is going to launch in March 2025. We know that they're going to at least talk about the Switch 2 by March 2025, but no confirmation of whether they're actually going to release it by then. It's very likely, but you know, things always change and that could end up getting shifted out. Sega, Atlus, Capcom, EA, Bandai Namco, Square Enix, and Koei Tecmo will immediately support the new console. I mean, I think that's fair. Some of those people weren't there at launch for the Switch 1, and they probably wish that they were, because it's on track to become one of the best-selling systems of all time, or it will eventually surpass everything else and become the best-selling system of all time. So I'm sure that they want to be there at the jump. Hopefully they end up with a game that everyone loves at the launch, kind of like your Mario Karts and stuff, to where they sell millions and millions of units. There will be a new physical cartridge format, kind of similar if you think to the 3DS and the DS. The cartridges looked almost identical, but there's like a little nub on the 3DS one, just so that way you couldn't put that cartridge in the old DS, but the 3DS supported the old DS cartridges. I think that's going to be something similar to what we're going to see here. The size of the console will be between the original Switch and a Steam Deck, closer to the ROG Ally. On the screen here, Central Leaks also has like a really nice like visual aid just to show what we're looking at as far as the actual size of the system. Again, it's going to be an 8-inch display. It's going to be an LCD, so it's going to be like the same type of screen as the original Switch, but it is going to be a 1080p display, so the picture quality is going to be a little bit nicer on it. But anyway, on the screen, got that posted up so you can see kind of a size comparison between the original Switch and this Switch 2. will use a new micro SD express cards for expandable storage, so your current micro SD cards may not work. This new SD format will launch later this year and will be more expensive. Initially, these cards will be limited to 256 gigabytes. There's another video that I've made talking about this new SD Express. Pretty much SanDisk and Samsung and everyone else are working on micro SD cards that have like read and write speeds closer to an SSD. And yes, they are launching later this year. There is also a 1 terabyte configuration. There's been no pricing along the lines of this stuff yet, but it is going to be more expensive than your typical SD card, but probably still cheaper than an SSD, which I think is nice. So if you're someone who downloads all your games digitally and you're trying to figure out how much money you need to go ahead and start setting aside for everything, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to set aside another like 150 bucks just for more expandable memory. I know that's me because I don't like having physical games. And then the rumors that need more sources, they say, or definitely the ones you want to take with a grain of salt, is that there is a new button on the back of each Joy-Con, so kind of like a back paddle built in, which I think is cool because I know that Xbox and Sony both have like their Pro controllers that have the back buttons. Like you have to buy like the $200 controller to get that, and if Nintendo's just going to launch a system that just comes with it, it kind of puts them ahead of the game with that, which I think is nice. There's going to be a new button below the home button. No idea what that is. The kickstand will have a dampening bracket, whatever that means. And Pokemon is already working on 3 projects for the new console. That's kind of fair. We know about Pokemon Legends ZA. Pretty sure that's either going to be a cross-gen or just a Switch 2 game. And the other 2 could be Pokemon Gen 10 Game 1 and Game 2. Or they could be counting Gen 10 as one game, and that there's something else like a mystery dungeon or Pokken tournament or something else that's coming along with it. Either way, there's 3 Pokemon games. That one's, even if you want to count that as a grain of salt, is the most expected thing out of this entire list, is that Pokemon's going to be there for the new system. As far as though, that's pretty much everything we know. There's other stuff that is not credible whatsoever, like your typical my father works at Nintendo kind of stuff. No idea if that stuff's ever gonna actually, I think out of everything here, the stuff that people should take away is like the stuff that we should care about is the performance of the system being comparable to a PS4 Pro to an Xbox Series S, which is just, I know when the Switch 1 came out, it was pretty comparable to like a 360/PS3 type of, as far as performance goes. So we're at least catching it up to now, or closer to being more relevant, let's say that. Although the Series X and the PS5 are already 4 years old, which is just crazy to me that the systems are already 4 years old. And they're both in the workings of preparing for what's next for them. But the improvements to like the artificial upscaling through the DLSS just means that the Switch 2 is going to be able to stay more relevant for a longer period of time, which that's something I'm really excited for, because my Nintendo Switch is probably the most played system I've ever had, and it's not until now that I'm starting to run into this game just doesn't run good. And maybe it's just the type of games that I play, but I'm noticing it. And I'm hopeful that the Switch 2, Switch successor, or whatever, will just be able to be more relevant for a longer period of time, and will continue to get supported by a lot of major studios because their games are still going to run fine on it. But between that and, I don't know, me personally, I'm really, even though it's going to be more pricey, I am excited to have these SD cards with better load times on them, just because I don't like waiting for games to load. I've been spoiled by PC and Xbox and PlayStation, and Nintendo's the only system where I usually have to wait for games to like truly load and stuff nowadays. So eventually, now that Nintendo's getting caught up with the times on that one, load times are just gone. I think it's nice. I think it's a nice quality of life thing people don't talk about enough. But anyway, that's all for the Nintendo Switch 2 leaks as of right now. Might do another one of these in a couple months if anything else has changed. But I just want to get everyone caught up to speed with what's going on now. Again, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like below and subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you soon with more Nintendo news.